First things first, stories to start your morning go like this. The Timberwolves sitting in the 7th seed out west got some good news yesterday. Jimmy Butler has been cleared for contact. He missed the last 15 games with a knee injury. He was big hurt, CC. The T-Wolves are looking to make the playoffs for the first time since 2004. Nick Wright, how important is Butler's return for the Timberwolves?
Oh, well, if they're going to have any shot of winning their first-round series, he has to be there. Now, if they end up falling to the 8th seed, right now they're the 7th seed, but it's a whole jumble in the West, 4 through 8. I don't think they can beat Houston. I also think if they stay at 7, they can't beat Golden State. But you get up to the 6th line, and you're playing Portland with a healthy Jimmy Butler, you absolutely can win that series, especially considering Portland, I don't think, has an answer at all for Karl-Anthony Towns. So, I mean, it's critical. It's the only way the Timberwolves are any factor in the playoffs is with a healthy Jimmy Butler.
Absolutely. He's the leadership. He helps stabilize their defense, which is sometimes suspect, and the constant score. He's going to get you 20 to 25 a game. Him and Karl-Anthony Towns, if Jimmy is healthy, they can pose problems for a team in the West because of what they can do, their versatility, especially with Jimmy Butler. And he's one of the best wing defenders that we're going to have in the playoffs. So first, Timberwolves need to get in the playoffs. And then once they get in, Jimmy Butler increases their chance of advancing out of that first round.
All right, staying in the association, 76er star Joel Embiid suffered an orbital fracture on Wednesday. Embiid was in jeopardy of missing the first round of the playoffs. But now a recent report says he may only miss one playoff game. CC, how much do the Sixers need a healthy Embiid in the postseason?
I mean, as we go back and forth talking about all these playoff teams, it's impossible to get better when you lose your star players. Joel Embiid, from the post-up standpoint, from his overall energy standpoint, no one is getting more post-up points in the NBA than Joel Embiid. So now, man, what would we do without that? They don't have any post presence. They don't have the three-point shooting. They would miss that because it stretches the court. When you have your next star being Ben Simmons, who is challenged offensively, you need a big guy, not only can post up, but can bring the 5 to the three-point line to allow those lanes to be open. Joel Embiid, he's the heartbeat of this franchise. They're going nowhere without him.
And that doesn't even, all those post-up stats don't even know. This guy might win Defensive Player of the Year for the whole league. Like, they definitely need him. Now, I've been very impressed with how Ben Simmons has played without him these last couple games. Not the greatest of opponents, but Simmons was great again yesterday. Nearly had a triple-double at, I think, 28 and 15. He's been extraordinary. But if they're going to pose any type of trouble in the first round, yes, you need Joel Embiid for, you'd like to have him for the entirety of the series. If he only misses game 1, maybe you can get by without him. The Sixers have been a great story. For the great story to go past that, wow. Could this team make it to May in the postseason? They need Joel Embiid. So this is good news. We'll see how he likes playing, though, with the mask he's probably going to have.
I hate playing with the mask on. Thunder took down the Pelicans last night, 109-104. Russell Westbrook recorded his 24th triple-double of the season. He finished 26, 15, and 13. Nick, how impressive were Westbrook and the Thunder last night?
Last night was partially about OKC and partially about New Orleans not playing well, for Anthony Davis not playing well in one of the biggest games of the year for them. You're talking about making the playoffs. Anthony Davis was a fun MVP candidate. Right now, they're 43 and 34 as the 8th seed. The Nuggets just one game behind them. But this is a trend we have seen with Oklahoma City we've talked about since Christmas. They've beaten 9 good teams since Christmas. All 9 times Russ has had to have an amazing basketball game. Like, for them to beat good teams, Russ has to have statistically a huge night.
Yeah, to me, though, this is Russ played bad 2 games, the last 2 games. I mean, they had to win last night. I mean, they've been jeopardizing their playoff seeding the last 2 weeks. Like, Russ needed this type of performance. And I think on Friday, man, he was so bad. Just shooting air balls in critical situations. I mean,
kept shooting.
So they needed this win. You know, the Pelicans, this is a bad loss for them. These games coming down the stretch, these last 5 games, they're critical, man. You can go from 3 to 7, 8, and some of the teams potentially out of the playoffs.
4 losses in a row for the Pelicans. They went from being the 4 seed and feeling good about that to being the 8 seed right now, and you don't know if they're going to make it.
Just so I'm clear, he still has the full unibrow.
Yes, he does.
I can't believe I fell for that. Moving on to the NFL,
shocked.
Baker Mayfield, that sounds like sarcasm, is projected to be one of the top picks in the draft later this month. Everyone's laughing. He's already getting compared to an all-time great. Baker has been linked to Brett Favre, and Favre agrees with the comparison. Chris Carter, is this a fair comparison? Baker, Mayfield, Brett Favre?
I don't like comparing the kids to some of the all-time greats, but I think sometime from a fan standpoint, you like to visualize, man, I wonder who this guy looks like. Now, I would like to pick someone besides Brett Favre because he had so much success. And throwing the ball in the cold, like Nick, you know I'm in the hand side. Brett Favre has a ridiculous hand. And Brett Favre is the John Wayne of the NFL. Like, how long, who else can do what he did? In the cold and have that consistent streak, not getting hurt. Baker does have some of the tendencies, because Brett Favre used to talk a lot of trash, you know, up and down the sideline. Not mean-spirited, very competitive. So I could see, especially with Brett saying that he reminds him a little bit of himself. Yes, I could see a little bit of that gunslinger, talking trash mentality, especially the battles that Brett Favre used to have with Warren Sapp.
Man, listen, for me to see this, I'm going to have to squint super hard. Then I'm going to have to borrow Jenna's bifocals and put them on. Like, here's the thing. You know what? You know what's a favorite term of the NBA fans these days? Unicorn. This guy's a unicorn. That guy's a unicorn. We got 7 unicorns in the league right now. Brett Favre, to me, is a true NFL unicorn. A guy that didn't necessarily early in his career do the greatest job taking care of his body. A guy who somehow played his style his way, never getting hurt or at least never being knocked out of the lineup. The unbelievable longevity, the numbers. People forget the great season he had in Minnesota, nearly taking them to the Super Bowl. I think we'll see another Joe Montana before we see another Brett Favre. I think he is such a unique story in the way he played. I just don't see anyone being comparable.
Well, I got Joe Montana being the second greatest quarterback ever. I don't think we'll see someone before we see another Brett Favre. I think that's more. You can't put all the stats together as far as durability, throwing style, personality.
Okay.
It's hard to do.
All right, finally, in a surprising move, the Raiders cut punter Marquette King. King has been a solid punter, but has gained criticism for his antics. Someone call the Rams. Reports are that new head coach Jon Gruden cut King because of personality issues. Rams. Nick, how surprising was Gruden giving King the boot?
I mean, I guess it wasn't surprising, but it was disappointing to me. Like, I just want to ask some NFL coaches this, and I'll ask Jon Gruden because we're talking about it. What is the coach's job, if not to take talented...
The coach's job is to manage the roster, to groom people, make them better than what they are, give them coaching techniques to enhance their overall skill, manage the locker room, and control the game.
Right. Is anything unfootball related? Anything non-football related the coach's job?
Well, they're the head coach, absolutely. Absolutely.
But let's talk about this then in relation to Marquette King. Because no one will deny this guy is one of the most talented punters in the sport. Has one of the biggest legs in the sport. Is not that you really need this from a punter that often, but is more athletic than most punters at the position. Like all these things, right? If you're the new head coach there and you look at it and you say, man, the guy was kind of selfish in his punting. You might say, what does that mean? Like, wouldn't necessarily take yards off a punt.
When they get around midfield, is he a great possession punter where he understands what the defense is trying to do, or is he going to be a little selfish and go for average and kick the ball into the end zone, which makes him have a higher average, but
not as good for the team.
Not as good for the team. Exactly right. Also, I mean, I think he's the only punter in league history to get unsportsmanlike conduct penalties in consecutive weeks, right? So, little personality issue, little selfish, but really talented. As a new head coach, shouldn't you believe in your ability enough to say, hey, that's how he acted under Jack Del Rio. It's not how he's going to act under me. I'm not getting rid of, arguably, one of the best players at his position.
I mean, at least give him a chance to turn himself around.
See if you can get through to him. That's your job as the coach, to me. Your job as the coach is to be able to imprint your philosophy on the team. And if your philosophy is cut the crap out, then imprint that on the team. You never even got a chance to meet with the kid before you cut him. Like, to me, it's the easy way out.
As a coach, when you say there's a new sheriff in town, there are going to be some people going to get executed in front of the team, in front of the media. This is one of them.
Like a statement?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all coaches. When they come to turn around a program, there are certain guys who've been like, why did he cut that guy? They cut him as an example of the type of personalities, and he doesn't want the personality of a wide receiver actually being his punter. When you start getting it mixed up in what position this guy play? Oh, he's a wideout. Oh, he's a punter. Now there have been other NFL punters that have problems with their personality. Chris Cooley. He had problems there in Minnesota. Vanderjack, as a kicker, he had problems. There's other punters and kickers that have had problems, that have had an outgoing personality, and it's affected their ability to stay employed. This is a position that they want the people to come to work and be very quiet, not be demonstrative, not draw attention to themselves. To me, I thought that he would have a short career. When I saw some of the highlights throughout the last several years, I didn't think people would allow him to be a punter, especially when you start getting personal fouls. You start doing stupid stuff.
Right, when it starts
Jack Del Rio was not pleased with him as the punter, not because of his overall skill, but because of his lack of wanting to be seen more than actually doing his job. And trying to create tension for yourself, I believe it can hurt you as a kicker, as a negative effect, and I believe it's had to do with salary. I believe he was making $2.5 million, and I knew they were going to come see him on that $2.5 million.
And while the Rams make sense, they actually got a great punter.
I know.
I'd love for him to go there because it'd be fun, but they got a great punter there.
I meant more for personality issues. Also to try to be funny and failed twice. So I said it twice. Hey, talk basketball.
That was funny, though.
Thank
you made up for it.
Nick Wright. The NBA postseason starts in 12 days. That means the Cavs have 12 days to find a starting lineup. One that includes 5 players who will start every night. You know, like a starting lineup. Among concerns last night, they barely beat a Mavericks team, 30 games under 500. LeBron did record his 17th triple-double despite shooting 5 for 21 from the field. After the win, LeBron spoke about the team's chances in the postseason.
You know, when it comes down to the postseason, you know, we can be pretty good. I mean, I think so, but I mean, we don't know. I mean, listen, we lost our starting point guard last game. You know, so you know, we're trying to get everybody acclimated. Our head coach is you know, still out, and that's going to take a little time to get back as well. So, I mean, I don't know what we're capable of doing. We haven't played a playoff game together. We got, you know, 4 guys from our championship team. You know, myself, JR, Tristan, and Kev. We got some playoff experience, but yeah, I mean, you don't know. It's a new season, so we'll see what happens.
All right, so let's talk about the Cavs and where they are right now, and whether your seeding has any effect for you, and if that matters to you at all. Where do you think they can go?
Listen, I think they want to avoid Philly in the first round. I'll tell you that much. I think right now, we've talked about if Philly could catch them. Indiana's only a half or 1 game back. Indiana also, by the way, won the season series with Cleveland. So if Indiana and Cleveland finish with the same record, Indiana can jump above them. Then they're likely in a 4-5 matchup with Philly. I think they would like to avoid that. About yesterday's game, I know LeBron had a triple-double. I think it was the worst game he's played all year. It was the first game in over a decade he was under 25% from the field. You don't see 5 for 21 games from LeBron. You might occasionally see 5 for 8 games from LeBron. You never see a 5 for 21 game. The only, in my opinion, reason they won that game is because the Mavericks are not trying to win games in the fourth quarter. Like we've talked about, do teams throw games?
Or the first, second, or third.
Well, no. In the first 3 quarters, the Mavericks, they have a great coach in Rick Carlisle. They put out competent lineups. And then come the fourth quarter, the way they tank effectively is Carlisle knows what their worst lineup possible combinations are. They put them out in the fourth quarter, and what happens? They get beat in the fourth quarter 25-10 when the Cavs weren't even playing that well in the fourth quarter. The Mavs just had no competent offense whatsoever. Like, yesterday was a bad game. And the other thing is this. LeBron said, we just lost our starting point guard. Kyle Korver still hasn't been back yet. They have played 0 games. 0 games with what their playoff roster will be. So
doesn't that worry you at all?
It would, if the Eastern Conference had shown any level of resistance over the last 3 years since LeBron was back, it would. But they've played 9 series against the East. They've swept 6 of them. They've gone to 5 games in 1, and they've gone to 6 games in 2. Like, even if the East has caught up a little bit and the Cavs have regressed a little bit, to me, they're still demonstrably the demonstrable favorite over everyone else. But I agree with LeBron. Like, well, I don't know what you expect. Are they going to be in a dogfight in the first round for the first time since he got back? Depending on who they play, that's on the board.
But I don't think you agree with LeBron. You said Cleveland's going to be in the finals.
Absolutely.
LeBron didn't say that.
Well, he didn't say they're not going to be in the finals. Like, what do you mean? He said, I don't know what to expect in this team in the postseason.
Right, but you said you know what to expect. You said they're in the finals, though.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
You see what I'm saying? So it's totally different than what LeBron's saying.
Well, I think, sure. I mean, but LeBron last week said it doesn't matter what seed we have. I like my chances.
That was before George Hill got hurt.
Yeah, but if George Hill were out for the year, I think I would be adjusting things as well. George Hill's not out for the year. George Hill will be back before the postseason.
Right.
Go ahead.
What I'm just trying to say is that there should be a certain amount. They're fortunate they're in the East. because that's the only way that you wouldn't have trepidation. If they were in the West, there's 5 teams in the West that could beat them. Like, I do believe that. Cleveland, based on the performance, though, LeBron was at the Justin Timberlake concert. Him and Justin Timberlake were doing shots on stage. You could hear in LeBron's voice, LeBron was hoarse. So after being out all night, you got Dallas coming the next day. This is what you're going to see. So let's not overreact to LeBron, to that game. But as far as the Cavs, I've been concerned about the Cavs all year. I believe this will be the most struggle that they had in the preliminary rounds of the playoffs, more so than any other year. So if they got Philly right now, the Philly matchup's not a bad matchup for them because Joel Embiid's out the first game. Philly's got home court advantage. Cavs are going to win the first game. So I don't care if they have home court advantage. The Cavs are going to win game number 1 before Joel Embiid plays. So I don't look at that as being a bad matchup, being up 1.
You don't care if they're the 3 seed or the 4 seed?
Well, I mean,
their health is the number 1 thing. All right? Getting all the guys back to being healthy is far more important than 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8.
Cece, would it surprise you? Right now the Cavs are 47-30. Last year, they won 51 games. This year, they're going to win either 50 or 51 games. They very easily could finish with the exact same record as last year. Despite, obviously, last year they didn't have any of this type of roster turnover. They added Kyle Korver right before the deadline, and that was really their only major addition. This year, Kyrie gone, Isaiah Thomas in, Isaiah Thomas out, coach in, coach out,
no
Kevin Love in, Kevin Love out. What do you make of the fact that they're going to win the same amount of games last year, when last year I know you had, I think I know, you had almost no level of concern about Boston beating them in the playoffs or about their ability to make it back to the NBA Finals?
Well, I think the East is better. I think Cleveland has been a tremendous disappointment based on the Kyrie trade, everything they went through with IT, trying to get it right, and now getting the players. If the players they traded for, almost all those players have spent some time on the bench hurt. Kevin Love being knocked in the lineup, not being in the lineup. So all these things give me trepidation. This is not a great basketball team. That's all. They're not a great basketball team. And they're very fortunate that they're playing in the East. They got 1 star. That's LeBron. And the rest of the players, you can't depend on them. So why would I have a bunch of confidence with the team? That was the diagnosis as far as the team top to bottom. Their coach is out. Like, why would I have a lot of confidence in that type of team? I believe this year they will struggle in the playoffs.
Well, their basketball team might struggle in the playoffs. Their football team just struggles any part of the season. Coming up, could Sam Darnold force his way out of Cleveland before he even gets there? Maybe it's a Cleveland thing. Next time, First Things First.
Man, the Browns would kill someone to be able to struggle in the playoffs.
Right.